The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on
This is
Sunday.
about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Guns up, giddy up. I'm not gonna lie, I did a guns up while muted. I did a guns up while muted, unmuted myself. Did
That
another
is,
one.
I absolutely cannot fathom that you would ever do that. Makes no sense. Hey, are you recording your own audio, by the way?
Yeah, of course. Let me. Yeah, yes, I am. Oh,
Yes.
No, I'm not. But I'll work on it.
Hey, yeah, why don't you do that for me? That'd be awesome.
Will do.
Great.
Will do.
Welcome to the Failure to Stop episode where technology is our specialty around here. And we never fail to be at the top of our technological game, my friends. We can't stop. We won't stop. We are the #1 show where law enforcement meets culture. And really, we've grown into a happy little family of shows, of episode styles. If you are watching live in the chat right now on the Failure to Stop YouTube channel, then you are watching our Friday shows, which is really turning into mostly breakdowns of notable cases past and present. And today's we are going to get into one today out of Louisville, where an officer was involved in a shooting back in June of 2020, has been recently fired from the Louisville Metro Police Department and is being indicted federally on a civil rights violation. Is this justified? Is it not justified? What all goes into this? We are going to break down this story front to back with a special guest, Dexter Pitts, who is the author of the book, I Am Pitts. And it's going to be an awesome show. We're super, super excited about it. And if you like this and you want more, we are offering 3 other shows and counting during the week. On Mondays, I've been doing a little mic on the mic and hopping on and ranting about something. Tuesday nights, live at 8, we do Night Shift, and we talk about all sorts of different topics, law enforcement and culture related. And then Tansey is hanging out with Jimmy on Thursdays and helping to save your third marriage and giving you all of the pop culture information you need to head into the weekend and sound like a normal human being. So lots of content that we're putting out there for you guys. If you want to join our Discord, that link is in the description of this YouTube broadcast, and it will be in the description of the audio notes when the show is released this afternoon on the audio version. Holy cow, that's a lot of information. Here we are. Tansey, how are you, my man?
Doing good, brother. Late night last night.
So there's a St. Patrick's Day celebration.
Yeah, a little St. Patrick's Day celebration at the distillery. I was on my feet, busy, but went really well. Went good. So
nice. Yeah. Did you wake up feeling all right today, or was it a little rough go?
I didn't drink because we were supposed to go on Brandon Tatum's thing last night, which got canceled. So
yeah, it's
really funny because typically on St. Patrick's Day, I would get ripped. I would get lit. But I knew because we were going on at 9:30, and that's probably the biggest live show that I would have yet to be on. So I didn't want to fuck that up. So I purposely did not drink. And then at 9 o'clock when they canceled on us, I was like, wow, I stayed sober on St. Patrick's Day. That's a first.
Impressive. Very good. Very good. I've been sober since like a week after Christmas. I haven't had a single drop of alcohol. So
yeah, Jimmy's sober, but I wouldn't let him talk about it yesterday on St. Patrick's Day. I said, nobody gives a shit about your sobriety on St. Patrick's Day. I said, let me just stop you right there.
Stop
you say
anything
today.
About yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I worked on St. Yesterday was one of the nicest days. It was the nicest day of 2022 here in Southeast Michigan. I took the morning off, exercised, loved it, put the sunroof open on the car, and drove in late. I was planning on obviously being here extra late with that Tatum podcast, which should be happening next Thursday. So This is the 24th of March. So look for that at night. It's not 100% confirmed, but I believe that's the plan. So it was nice to go home. I ended up going home early and watching. I'm stuck in season 5 of The Last Kingdom. It's a Viking show. Love it. So the missus and I sat down and watched another episode of that, and that was
Have you done 1883 yet?
I have not.
No, we talk about it on the pop culture news thing. If you get around to it, Sam Elliott, brilliant in that series. It's a 10 episodes and done. So there's no follow-on season to it. It's just 10 episodes, tells a story, and then it's over. So definitely worth your time.
I'll jump on it. Guys, want to acknowledge the old Wolf Pack and say thank you so much for leaving a rating and review, especially on Apple Podcasts, which is the king. It's half of our audience listens there, and that's where a lot of the rankings for shows are built out of. So I want to say thanks to those that are leaving those by reading them. J Dickin 1010 says 5 stars always relevant. Mike and Eric stay relevant to current events while implementing personal experience. This is such a great podcast to listen to, especially being in law enforcement myself. Lifetime fan here. Guns up, giddy up. Right back at you, J Dickin 1010. Appreciate you, buddy. Memphis Cat says best friggin' podcast. 5 stars. Awesome show. I don't miss a show, even going as far as to set alarms for reminders. The family say I am obsessed, but can't think of a better obsession to have. I got my Guns Up Giddy Up tee for my birthday and rock it proudly in Baltimore. Best B-Day gift I got so far.
Man, Baltimore, that's brave. Brave
Yeah,
place
man.
to wear that shirt.
Kudos to you. You're in the line of fire, buddy. Good job. Thank you. And Graziano7677 says, it couldn't get any better. 5 stars. I would drag my weenus through a mile of broken glass just to hear MTC and Tasmanian Devil break down a case. 10 stars.
You'd have a pretty cut up weenus. Weenus being the skin on the back of your elbow.
Correct.
I assume, right? That's
Yes.
what a weenus is.
Ah, of course.
Technically. You can have some cut up elbows, but hey, I love it, dude. I like it. First person to get a failure to stop tattoo. That's a real deal. That's a real deal.
A Guns Up Giddy Up tattoo.
Yeah, that or a wolf pack tattoo, you know? If you're a real fan.
Yeah. Wow. I don't even know what would give you free listens for life. I don't know. I don't even know what we could offer someone who would do such a thing. I have no idea.
I will fly to wherever you are and I will take you out to dinner. And then I'll fly home.
Sounds good. That's fair enough. Yeah. We have to have a few more stipulations because I don't want it to be some tiny little failure to stop tattoo that's like literally 1.25 inches long and like, a quarter inch tall.
I mean, I feel like I wouldn't even care if you put like FTS like on your wrist, like where all the girls put like live, laugh, love.
A basic white guy podcast tattoo. I don't know how that works.
Oh, and that's how a gay murder orgy starts.
Wow. Yeah. If you guys haven't listened to that episode, boy, oh boy, what that hands down was that was a mind blowing. And there's no other podcast that shares that story yet. So we broke that sucker before the documentary. It's beautiful.
It's pretty amazing.
Man, listen up, guys. We are going to bring in our guest here in a second, but we do have 2 sponsors for today's shows. The first is a new sponsor to the show. We couldn't be more excited. Anybody that puts their faith and trust in us for ad reads and sponsorships, we believe in them. So listen up, man. It's Policy Genius in the house, baby.
And this couldn't come at a better time because yesterday on Failure to Stop, last call of the day, talked about the Bob Saget autopsy where they have concluded that he may have fallen on the carpet. Now, Mike, I don't know how many dead people you've witnessed in your life. Probably a lot, being a cop in Detroit.
Yeah, most I would say the overwhelming majority of those dead bodies were people that randomly fell on the carpet.
Right. Yeah.
Shattered their skull.
Yeah. I think
not weird.
If I was going to go or somebody that I loved was going to go, I don't know that I would take that answer. Because if Bob Saget wasn't that old, that he was just falling around apartments, that's another story. Point being, though, is that you never know when you're going to go. And therefore, you need life insurance. And Policy Genius makes it more simple than any other company. I've already taken the survey.
Do we have a code?
It is. You're going to go to PolicyGenius/Wolfpack, all capital letters. Actually, I don't even think you have to, but go to PolicyGenius.com/Wolfpack. Policy Genius is all one word, baby. And the G is always lowercase. But if you are in charge of somebody, like if you're responsible for your children or your wife or your elderly parents, and you work in a high risk profession or not, I mean, I would argue that being a comedian is not a high risk profession. It doesn't matter. You never know when you're going to go, and you need to take care of the ones that you love. Policy Genius is your one-stop shop to find and buy insurance that you need. Click on the link in the description, and we're going to post this on our story on Instagram. We'll also post it up on Facebook, but you can go to the link. It's policygenius.com/Wolfpack. Answer a couple of questions. I did it in like less than 3 minutes. I mean, it's literally like 4 pages of questions, and they're like Big Bird to Cookie Monster style. But you could save 50% or more on life insurance by comparing quotes with Policy Genius. Matter of fact, I just deleted my post, but it was super inexpensive for a 10-year and a 25-year plan, which is cheaper than the policy that I have currently that I had 12 years ago. So I'm already working with one of their customer service reps and getting that policy switched over to Policy Genius. The Policy Genius team, they work for you and not insurance companies. So you can trust them to offer unbiased help and advocate you at every step until you are covered. There's no extra add-on fees. They don't sell your information to third parties. They have thousands of 5-star reviews across Google. They have options that offer coverage in as little as a week to avoid unnecessary medical exams. And since 2014, Policy Genius has helped over 30 million people shop for insurance and placed over $120 billion in coverage. Head to policygenius.com/Wolfpack and get your free life insurance quote and see how much you could save.
Giddy up. After we get Epstein for eventually covering a case that's going to get us taken out, our families will be taken care of. Thanks to Policy Genius.
Thanks to policygenius.com/Wolfpack. Oh, by the way, my 15-year plan, $18 a month. So I don't mind. That's my new quote there from Policy Genius.
Nice.
It's not bad.
Well, there you go.
It's not bad at all.
Yeah. Well, whatever, man. Get yourself some coverage here. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm.
You gotta do it.
All right. Today's story, man, is going to infuriate you. It seems to be a theme of what we'll do when we break down a case. It's probably really pissed you off, break your heart, do something, man, blow your mind. And today is going to be no exception to this. And to help us cover this is going to be Mr. Derek Pitts.
Derek.
Welcome to the show. Dexter, I'm sorry.
What's up?
It's
all good.
I was doing so good today.
It's all good, man.
I thought Tansey would be the one to screw it all up, but no. What's up, brother?
Oh, not much, man. I appreciate y'all for having me on. A little nervous. This is live, man.
Dude, I'm nervous for you. I hope that you don't get fired after coming on our show. It's real ballsy for a sworn officer that's currently working in the profession to come on our show with me on it, because you never know what I'm going to say.
Can you fire a black man in 2022?
Oh, well, probably not.
Yeah,
that's a cancelable offense.
And I mean, and if they did fire me and lock me up, I mean, I could just cry like Jussie Smollett and just get right back out. So.
Oh, that's right. He did. He got out for St. Patrick's Day. You think Jussie? Do you think he's Irish? Is that why they let him out on St. Patrick's Day?
He's light skinned. He probably is a lot more Irish than me, though.
That's a tradition at the Chicago prison system. Is you let one black man free on St. Patrick's Day in honor of St. Patrick. That's been happening for hundreds of years, right?
You know what would suck though, thinking about it, Dexter, is like, what if you were born black and Irish, but the only Irish part you got was downstairs? So you got all the other like things that come with being black, except you got an Irish penis, which is like extremely small.
Well, let's be honest. During the wintertime, we all have Irish penises, so.
That's when George went to the pool on vacation there. And
shrinkage,
like a turtle head back in its shell. Oh my gosh!
Oh, and before we get going further, let me go ahead and just make this announcement and disclaimer.
Okay.
I am an employee here, not a slave, and I am speaking as a free Negro freed under the 13th Amendment. Oh. And I am going to express and use my First Amendment privileges today, since we've been freed in this country for quite some time now. Okay. Thank you to your people. You too.
Dang.
I'd like to take all the credit for that. So you're welcome.
And so, so I just want to go ahead and put that out there, man. I'm not speaking on the behalf of the department. Ladies and gentlemen, you are hearing directly from me. This is just my opinion. I'm not speaking for command or anybody else.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It couldn't have worked out. It was crazy timing because Tansey reached out and we were talking about the fact that you were coming on the show today. And then next to simultaneous with that, we get notified of this crazy indictment coming on an officer from your department who we're familiar with. And we'll get into that in a second. And I was like, man, what are the chances that this huge breakdown happens in a time that we're able to get your attention? Because you're a busy man these days. You're going on Drinking Bros. You're going on freaking the Medevac podcast. You're like, you're the man. You got a book out. I Am Pitts. Man, you got a lot going on. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your story, and why in the world we cross paths, and tell people what you want them to know about you before we dive into this.
Yeah, well, I almost didn't make this, man. We had an officer involved incident. I believe it was yesterday. And then we just had another officer involved shooting this morning. So I thought I was going to have to cancel. Gosh. They started calling the SRT team. I was like, man.
Hopefully it was white people, so there's no riots.
Man, typically that's my first question. I'm like, man, for the love of God, please don't let them have melanin in their skin.
Is that crazy that that's what we all think? Which is probably good, right? Like, it's probably good that we're hoping that it's not a person with melanin in their skin. But like every time a shooting or something goes off, the first thing I go is, fuck, man, I don't want to deal with riots and bullshit. Please be a white person or an Asian, because nobody gives a shit about whites or Asians.
That's what it seems like nowadays, man. That's what it seems like, dude.
Hey, I care about Asians. Stop Asian hate, bro. I'm still on that hashtag. I changed my profile pic.
Mike's going to the Asian parlor tonight, as a matter of fact.
I have my profile pics in
the Asian parlor.
I played mahjong this morning with a couple Asian friends.
It's like I got an Asian massage. 8:30 this morning. Oh my God.
Make that Irish penis smile, bro.
Jeez. Gosh, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Man.
She said you can get excited anytime. I'm like, I've been excited. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh. So what was the deal with the shooting this morning? Is it,
I don't even know, man. I don't even know. I just got the text, and my kids are on a e-learning day, so I had to stay here with the kids. Although I'm being a bad father and ignoring them right now for fame. So
there you go. Yeah. Well, you've earned your right to be heard. You served in Iraq.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Iraq, and you received the Purple Heart. Had some crazy combat experience that has been shaped. You certainly had your share of experiences that we have not. So tell us a little bit about your story and background so people know who you are.
Yeah. So Dexter Pitts, I was born in Fort Knox, Kentucky. I grew up in the military and never had any intent on joining the military. But just like everybody else from my generation with the 9/11 thing, 9/11 happened. That woke something up in me. And then I remember watching Black Hawk Down, and I was like, man, I'm going to join the Army, become a Ranger. So I was a Ranger wannabe, never got to become a Ranger, passed up the opportunity to go to Ranger school in Army Infantry Boot Camp. I get assigned to the 10th Mountain Division, 2nd Brigade, Alpha Company 214 Infantry, the Golden Dragons. I deployed to Iraq in June of 2004. I was wounded by a giant IED on January 2nd of 2005. I sustained, my left arm was shattered. I had like my back and hips blown out of alignment. My molars were cracked in half, and I took a, slight TBI. And so I have a total of 13 surgeries, and my left arm has pretty much been reconstructed, and I don't have full use of my left arm. So tell people, like, that's all I got. Like, literally, that's all I got, man.
That's a good motion. That's the only motion you need, though.
That is the only motion you need, especially at the Asian parlor. Yes, but but yeah. So I have 13 surgeries, man. I got all this hardware in my arm. And
if you were like in the Asian massage parlor and there was like a sting and a bust and they broke in, could you just use that as your excuse? You'd be like, guys, listen, I'm a Purple Heart veteran. I don't have use of my arm.
It's my PTSD. How did I get here?
I need this. How else am I supposed to get it done?
Give this to me.
Are you going to do it? Are you going to do this for me?
This is reparations.
reparations.
I'm old this
Putting up
hand job.
a picture of
Goodness
your
gracious.
Humvee that's
Yeah,
coming to
so-
your Instagram. So this was the in reference to, well, how would your arm be messed up? Well, there's one good reason.
And I was the drivers at the driver's door where you're looking at, that's where I was sitting, and you could look where the blast hit directly on my door. And the crazy part is, like, right before the blast, me and my buddies were standing outside next to the door. And it was so weird. Like, you could just feel something in the air, like, man, something's not right. Somebody's watching us. And some odd reason, I don't know what the trigger guy was doing. Maybe he was asleep. I don't know if he was on Pornhub on his phone or something at the point in time in 04, but like he had the chance to kill all of us. And this dude, I don't know what happened, but we got back in the vehicle. Then he blows the IED off. And that's, next thing you know, it's history, man. And it's weird. I remember waking up in two different points. Like, I remember at one point waking up on the ground. And then I also kind of a couple days later, my memory kind of jogged back. And I remember waking up in the Humvee and being pulled out. So it kind of happens when you get blown up and, your brain gets a little rattled. But so I finally get out fully medically retired from the Army in October 2006. And like everybody else, I'm kind of, floating through life, trying to figure out what's going on. Then I get picked up by HBO. HBO puts me on a documentary in 2007, Live Day Memories Home from Iraq, with James Gandolfini from the Sopranos. And after that, I get picked up by Spike Lee, and I go over to Italy, and I shoot the movie Miracle at St. Anna. And actually, I started going I got pretty far left in politics, man. I was going hard, Black Power fist and all that, man. And so it was an interesting journey for me. And then after that, I said I was going to become an actor, but I ended up falling in love with a girl here who I'm no longer married to. Very powerful family, so I will stay away from that one.
Yeah.
So so I decided, I was like, I'm gonna stay here local. Then in the back of my mind, I always wanted to be kind of a police officer or law enforcement, because I tried going the occupational therapy route in business, but it just wasn't really me. But
So when you decided that you maybe wanted to be a cop, were you still like super left power fisting?
Yeah, I was still pretty far in it, but I didn't let a lot of people know. But personally, deep down, that's how I felt.
Okay.
And it's so weird because I wasn't raised like that, but when you are with a group of guys and you in the Army and you get separated and you're out and you're on your own, you're going to start looking for any sort of acceptance. And that was the first group where I felt acceptance. Yeah. And, for me growing up being dark skinned, I was terrorized by a lot of young Black kids for being dark skinned. I go through that in my book and how it traumatized me. And so these guys brought me in and like, man, your skin's beautiful. You should be proud of your skin color. And it felt good and I was accepted. And so I started going down that road. But, once I got on the police department, I started to see that, man, you know what? This isn't, this is just like the military. These guys don't care about my skin color. And I started working in the Black neighborhood in the West End in Louisville. And I quickly started to change my beliefs and my perceptions at that time, because I started to see the reality of like life in Black neighborhoods, in the Black community, and being a cop there, and how even though we had the same skin color, these folks ain't like me, man. Yeah. And it just slowly started to turn. And I kind of went real hard right for a little bit, but now I'm kind of more center, where I'm like looking to be more of a reasonable person. And everybody has valid reasons and beliefs and excuses on either side of the aisle. But I'm doing my best now to kind of be in the middle and try to be the voice of reason for everybody. Yeah,
which is great. I mean, that's kind of what our show is all about. We believe that all politicians are cunts, and we just don't really pick sides on politicians. Every politician has some good ideas. They also have some bad ideas, but it's definitely not. We're not like picking baseball teams here where we have to stay loyal,
Yeah, no kidding.
So that's
loyalty
crazy.
in the game.
That's crazy because when I was a training officer, I worked in the Black side of Raleigh, and oftentimes we went through the hiring process after Ferguson, where they really wanted to get lots of people of color onto the department. And so they really went hard on recruiting people of color, but none of them. And so in Raleigh, the way it works is that you can choose where you work, and they won't send you to the southeast side of Raleigh unless you choose to be there, because it's
the
more
hood,
dangerous.
Right?
That's the hood. And so none of these people of color chose to work in the hood. So then the department changed their thing, was like, no, now we're just going to put people there because we hired you because we want you to work in the hood. You know what I mean? So then I always felt like that was kind of racist, because one, I don't mind hiring, putting hard recruiting in for people of color, right? We should be convincing people of color in all walks and women and children to become cops. Sure. I'm all for that. But then you shouldn't just be doing that just because you want to put them in the black side of town to make a statement.
Yeah.
Like that throws all of the goodness out. Now you have
hate it.
ulterior motives, right?
Exactly.
Of hiring them. And so they start forcing them to come down. Well, there was a whole class where I think it was like one of the most graduating classes. I don't know what it was, but they got this group of all the people of color that graduated in the academy. They all got together and they put their fist up in uniform for a picture on graduation. And the department was super excited about this, and these guys were sharing it. Well, one of those rookies came to me, and he was all about it, right? Like he was all about some black power. Great. And it wasn't within like 3 days of us training that he was like ready to start violating some rights. He was like, hey, why is that woman walking down the side of the street at 3 a.m., pushing a baby cart? And I was like, because she's American and she can do that if you want. She's like, well, she needs to be inside with that baby. That baby don't need to be out on these streets walking by these gangs at 3 a.m. I was like, what are you going to do, bro? Like, it's her God-given right. And he's like, no, let's go talk to her. And I'm thinking, I'm like, dang, dude, this guy is the one that's like super liberal, all about rights. And now he sees this black woman at 3 a.m. and he just wants to jump all over because it's wrong. Like, right? Like you finally get to work in the inner cities and then you see how fucked up it is. And you're like, dude, how does everybody put up with this shit? Like, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Why are all these kids playing basketball in the cul-de-sac after there was just a stabbing 2 hours ago at 1 o'clock in the morning on a school night? You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people, they get into that and then they change their mind very quickly where they're like, man, maybe I was wrong. Maybe the ghetto is the problem. Maybe it's not.
It's a cultural problem, man. I try to tell people that all the time, and we have guys coming on now that are all like that, and I'm like, you know what? I don't say anything. This job will teach you itself. I don't have to teach you. This job will do all the work itself. So I'll let them figure it out on their own, man.
Ain't that
like if you're here, you need some advice, I got you. Trust me, you're gonna get called plenty of Uncle Toms, coon, sell out nigga, and all that, man. So that being it's part of the life when you're a black cop, dude. And we had that with during the protests here, officers in uniform marching with Black Lives Matter, and that really upset me because my thought was, you know what? The Constitution does not care about your feelings or political affiliations. So if the KKK or some skinhead groups comes to town and they want to march, and you're in that uniform, you damn well better afford them the same opportunity and protection. We don't get to play sides and placate on like, oh, I support this, so I'm going to go protect them more. No, we have to distribute the Constitution and the freedoms across the board equally. So when you're in uniform, you should not be at any point be participating in any sort of protest in uniform.
See, I'm glad you said that. I said that on another episode of ours where I said the cops don't get to have a voice. Like you when you put on that uniform, you don't get to have a voice anymore. You are the sheepdog. You cannot communicate with the sheep because you don't speak the sheep's language, and you don't get to communicate with the wolves because you don't speak the wolf's language, and you don't get to talk to the farmer because you don't speak the farmer's language. You were the sheepdog, and you were to protect the sheep. You were to obey the farmer, and then you are to fight the wolves, and that is your job in life. You do not get to you don't get to communicate with them. You just literally show up and you do what you got to do to protect everybody and do the right thing. And people were like, that's not true. Cops do have a voice. And I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah, sure. And this comes up in this case that we're going to break down here is your personal opinions are one thing, and you shouldn't strip your officers of a personal opinion. I mean, you can't dehumanize them. You can't take their life away. But when you're in uniform, imagine the same chiefs of police and other leaders that knelt in solidarity with BLM when Trump comes to town, all putting on MAGA hats and putting a fist up in the air with a MAGA hat on. People would be completely blown away, outraged, rightfully so, because being in uniform and representing the oath to uphold the Constitution and protect the people in your community has nothing to do with either of the political sides. That's irrelevant. And so, what a disheartening thing to see. But that's exactly what kind of leads us into this kind of case that we're going to talk about with, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but David, his nickname is Yaya. McAtee.
That's
is-
Irish. That's
McAtee.
Irish too.
McAtee.
Yeah,
McAtee.
barbecue man.
That whole case that we'll break down, and Officer Katie Crews involved in that. And so what first drew our attention to this is I might not have never heard of this unless we had already had a connection with Officer Katie Crews. I just want to give you guys the background on how we have come into that connection. So back in like 2015, I was one of the co-founders of a nonprofit called Humanizing the Badge. Myself and Tristy Ogden were the two founders of that organization. It's still in existence today, giving out grants to both officers or community nonprofits that are doing cool things together or for law enforcement in the community. And we give out these grants. And one thing that we did recently was we partnered at the spearheading efforts of Officer Katie Crews to help a kid with Down syndrome, Bradley Sago. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name right, but Officer Bradley. He has Down syndrome. He's 18 years old. He started posting videos like on TikTok and such of him in like just a fake police uniform, like a Halloween costume, right? And people
Stolen
were
valor. Stolen valor.
Stolen valor. Flash your medals. And he gets made fun of. He starts getting bullied as little in variety of situations. And some people stepped up and said, it'd be cool is to get him sworn in as an honorary officer for the Louisville Police Department. Katie Crews kind of spearheads this opportunity. There were tons of officers that showed up. I can't begin to tell you all their names, but lots of officers were there. Had a cool little ceremony. We videoed it. We put it out on social media. Great experience. And that's the kind of person that Katie Crews and most of Louisville Metro police officers that are out there day to day are. They're doing the right things. They're doing things in their community that make a difference, and they stand for what's right. And so Katie reached out to us and is like, well, so this is happening, and lets us know that she's being federally indicted now in connection to a June 1st, 2020 shooting incident, which is the incident that we are going to break down in great detail. So before I dive into the news article that I first was sent about this, do you guys have anything to add to that at this point?
For me, I'll say, so when this whole incident happened, I was not even in Louisville. So I left the Louisville Metro Police Department in November of 2018, and I joined the United States Border Patrol. And that's a whole nother story itself and a different adventure. So I did the Border Patrol for about a year, and then I left the Border Patrol, went to a small police department in Arizona called the Sahuarita Police Department. And during that time is when the riots kicked off. So I was in Arizona watching all this unfold from my phone. And then when I heard about the incident with the Yaya at 26 and Broadway, it broke my heart, man. So for me, it's hard for me to call a lot of officers that come forward and say, Yaya was a piece of crap. He was a piece of garbage. But that's not the case, because I worked that area most of my career, and I would go down to visit his barbecue stand. This man would never let police officers pay for food whatsoever. Never. You could try to offer him $100. He wouldn't take it. He was like, thank you for what you do for the community, and man, the man was nothing but good to me. So for me, I have to go out and just lead with that, because he never crapped on me and did anything to me personally. He treated me with the utmost dignity and respect. So I don't really understand everything that happened and unfolded that night. And I can't curse the officers for how they responded, because when there's shots being fired and you're being fired at, you're going to shoot back. And just the whole incident was it's very unfortunate, man. And my heart goes out to Katie. Katie, if you're listening, girl, hey, I got your back. I'm supporting you. I'm going to do whatever I can,
So you said that you worked at Side-Town. Now you came back and worked those riots. Not
Yes.
just a few months later, right? You went back to Louisville, became Louisville PD again, and then you were on the front lines. I mean, I'm just going off of what I read in your book. I was on an airplane reading your book, by the way. And so, what was that? What was that like before we go any further? Is that okay, Mike? Can I ask that now, or ask him what those riots were like? But so Yaya dies, and of course the riots break back out. What was that like for you?
So, like I said, when Yaya was killed, I wasn't back yet. So all that happened between May 28th and June 10th. And I swore back in June 15th. And just, man, I remember driving into downtown Louisville, coming back, driving from out west, and it was like a war zone, man. I mean, you could just see, a cab, all cops are bastards, the only good cop's a dead cop. It really felt like, we were in like the purge, man. It was just, I've never seen downtown so desolate and just boarded up, looked like a war zone. And just when I made that first call out and the protesters were at the bridge, hanging banners and blocking traffic, and I remember I was just smiling because I was so happy to be back. Then it was, that's when I had my first encounter with all the protesters. And here they come. Look at this black, ugly ass nigga right here. Yeah, suck my dick, you faggot ass motherfucker. You sell out, traitor, racist bitch. And all, just the most evil things that people could say to you were being said to me. And I've been through enough in my life. My exterior, dude. I'm Teflon, bro. You're not gonna say anything to hurt my feelings. But just seeing what my fellow officers were going through, that hurt me more than anything, man. And it was just.
I want to make a point on that really quick. And I don't know if I read your book, and when I was telling Mike, when I was trying to explain who you are as a person, I think it's important for our listeners to know. What I see, you don't say this in your book, but this is what I gathered from reading your book, is that you are this gentle giant, and you're a fucking giant. How tall are you?
5'10", but I'm gonna go with the 6 foot though.
Yeah, but you're a big boy. Like you're a football player sized dude, right?
Yeah. I'm weighing about 260 right now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That COVID weight still coming.
But but you're like this gentle giant that like really wanted to like find his way in life, but like as a servant, like you joined the military, kind of just seems like you have this like super big, like open, like heart. Like you don't seem like a warrior, right? Like I want to join, I want to fucking kill bad dudes. Like, it feels like you just wanted to be a servant to others. And then you keep finding yourself as you're going through this walk of life, military, border patrol, everywhere you go, the shit finds you and you're being like forced to be a warrior. Yes. It's like God is saying, no, bro, you're not going to be this like open hand of kindness. You're going to be a warrior. And because you get intense combat right when you get to Iraq, you take a lot of heat when you go to the border at the worst fucking time. You go back to Louisville at the worst fucking time. You're just thrown in the mix. And according to your book, kind of reading your past and your history, it's like you just want to be a servant. Like you want to be the guy that goes out and says, yo, let me get some barbecue, man. How are you doing today? How's the family? Everything all right? Do you need anything? Anybody messing with you? Like you seem like you want to be the caring, loving guy, but you haven't really been able to be that in any of your professions.
And that's all I've wanted to be, man. I'm like, when I joined the military, I did sign up to shoot people in the face though. That was the whole purpose, after 9/11, but I can't have that. You can't have that mentality as a police officer. And I really am a gentle giant. I've never been one to just go looking for conflict, man. And I know what it's like to be teased. And for me, seeing people that aren't able to stand up for themselves and protect and defend themselves, that really hits me because that was me for most of my life. And then seeing what, the things that happen in communities with criminals, and then seeing that divide between cops and the Black community, I really came to try to bridge the gap. Like I said, I just wish I've always been the guy. I wish we could all just get along, but apparently we all can't get along. But I'm going to do whatever I can on my end to try to bridge the gap. I'm only one guy and I'm only one officer, but the person you're describing as me, man, honestly, that's most of the officers here on this police department. Are there a couple bad cops here and there? Of course. Are there racist cops? Yeah, but you think they're going to come up to me and be like, hey, Dex, tell you something, man, I really can't stand these Black folks out here, but that's why I work in the Black community. They're not going to do that to me. They're not going to say that. And for me, we have this low bar where it's like, well, that officer's racist. Like, well, why is he racist? How is he racist? He said this. I'm like, well, that it might be insensitive, but it's not necessarily racist. And that's the biggest thing for me. These guys and girls on this police department are stellar. They've been through hell and back, man. And I love this police department. I love the boys and girls in blue that I serve with, man. But it's broken my heart to see the department to where it is now and to see what's happening to Katie Crews. It's just nobody wants to see their friends and the people that they love and serve with end up federally indicted. Yeah. Like that's terrifying.
That's super scary shit. So before we go there, so you go back, you're on this line now, you're getting berated with racial slurs, cold name. What happens next?
So for me, so after the Breonna Taylor verdict, on September 23rd. You know, the tension in the city had been building. So when the riots initially popped off, Louisville PD, the city, nobody was ready. So everything was just kind of wild and just kind of spur of the moment and very
Now, why weren't
reactive.
they ready? Why weren't they ready? Like, did you guys not really think that shit was going to happen?
You know, for a person, I don't know what command was thinking, but I've been on the riot team on SRT for years, and we've always had protests that popped up, but nothing of this magnitude and scale. So when I heard that people were gathering in downtown Louisville, when I was watching on my phone, I was like, "Ah, man, ain't nothing going to happen, dude," because we never expected that to happen. We've had protests come and go. They go do their thing, walk down the street, yell and chant, and then they, you know, some shake our hand, then they go home. And then when this popped off, man, rocks were getting thrown through windows and the cops getting assaulted and fireballs. You know, I guess nobody expected that to happen. You know? And so we knew that things were getting ready to blow up during the Breonna Taylor verdict for the officers involved when they started putting concrete barriers downtown, bringing out salt trucks. And, you know, it was just like you could just feel the tension in the city. And then once they made the announcement that none of the officers were going to be charged in their death, but only one would be charged with the wanton endangerment charges, the city went nuts. And next thing you know, we are on Bardstown Road. And man, we are surrounded by a crowd of very upset and angry people. And I felt like I was back in Iraq. And my biggest fear at that point in time was being caught in an open ambush like the officers in Dallas during that 2016 BLM protest where the guy went rogue and just started shooting cops. And I believe he killed 5 cops. And that was my biggest fear. And the next thing you know, we're in this giant skirmish and what some of us have dubbed the Battle of Bardstown, or I call it the Rumble in the Highlands, man. And, you know, so we go through that and, you know, it kind of comes down. Then we see a truck pull up downtown and, you know, people are pulling out this, they're going to this U-Haul and pulling out shields and bats and weapons. And we're like, man, these people don't want to protest. They want to fight. And then lo and behold, later that night, we get called to the intersection of First and Broadway. So we're getting off the bus. And as we're getting off the bus, you just hear shots ring out. Pow, 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 pow. In my mind, I'm thinking, oh, it's got to be pepper balls or something, man. Then I was like, no, that's gunfire. You know, and I remember grabbing the guy in front of me and pulling him back. And we go back to his pillar and take cover. And we start scanning south of the intersection, man, where the shots were coming from. And next thing you know, you hear the 2 most terrifying words that any officer can hear in their life. Officers down, not officers. 2 of our guys got hit. And man, the one thing about that really struck me was the whole thing was about, you know, black and white and, you know, evil racist white cops. But our guys that got hit were 2 officers. One was white and one was black, you know, and we get these guys to the hospital. And the one scary thing was that 2 weeks before that, we had the incident in LA where the 2 sheriff's deputies got shot. And before they got to the hospital, protesters got to the hospital and they blocked the entrance to stop the officers from getting there. And so in our mind, that was getting ready to happen. So we start hoofing it down Broadway. I mean, man, we're moving double time. We got like 8 blocks to go, trying to make sure that the protesters did not get to the hospital before we did. You know, but thank God the officers got there, man. And, you know, I felt we were so defeated at that point in time, and we were pulled off the line, man, and just, you know, worried like, man, like, are these guys going to make it? Are they going to die? And then the whole city just kind of just went still and was quiet after that for a little bit. But the foolishness started right back up, man. And I knew that it was a couple nights later that we had a major political figure that was arrested here in Louisville. And during that time she was arrested, there were people trying to burn down the library. There was a lot of destruction going on. And once I knew we arrested her, I knew that everything was going to get thrown out. And everything from that night ended up getting thrown out because of who got arrested.
Who was it that got arrested?
It was Attica Scott.
Okay.
And we had another lady that's running for mayor for Shamika Parish right here. She's a big time BLM person. And once I saw those names, I was like, man, all these charges are going to get dropped. And they dropped everything. Wow. But now they want us to go out and go back to being active in policing. And, you know, we had people trying to burn down the city for the last, 2 years. The guys out in Portland and, all this craziness, the peaceful, the fiery, but mostly peaceful protests. And now they like, hey, go back out there and get active, guys. Go show these people who's boss. Go stop these American citizens and take money out their pockets and put it into the hands of the government. But we let everybody else go. But now you want me to actually start stopping and enforcing the law when we let all these other bad guys go? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a world of double standards. Let's take a look at this this news article that is what I first did. I want to read through this. It kind of like highlights the situation. Then I'm gonna walk us through, maybe with some of your color commentary, Dexter, on some of the things that we know, or you know, from being in this specific world. But it says a former Louisville Metro Police Department officer, and I got this story from wave3.com, is facing federal charges in connection with the death of popular West Louisville restaurant owner David McAtee, according to an incident filed on March 16th. Indictment, I'm sorry. On June 1st, 2020, McAtee was killed after Louisville Metro officers and National Guardsmen returned fire at his restaurant. Pause there because I'm not going to show the video because there's gunfire involved in it, and it's going to ruin our new channel. It's not even about monetization. They'll just straight up ban us. But the just so that there's no confusion, it is not in dispute that Yaya fired a weapon outside of his establishment, not just once, but at least a second time. So the first set of shots is fired. Officers take cover. They are again faced with gunfire coming from him, and then they return fire at that point, and that ends his life. So this is not in dispute. There is video. If you want to go, you can look it up. There's video from inside the restaurant. There is video from outside the restaurant. It's all very well established. There's actually a press conference with LMPD staff explaining what you're looking at. You can go find it. So his barbecue is on the South 26th Street and West Broadway during a night of violent riots. This is in the wake of the Breonna Taylor incident itself. He was killed by bullet fire from a National Guardsman. Officer Katie Crews, who we're talking about, the investigation showed rounds that she did fire did not hit him. So she was not the one that struck him. It was a National Guardsman. His brother, Jamie, says it's still, to this day, it's very rough. It broke up a lot of our family, a lot of back and forth. We don't know who to talk to, who to confide in. Officers were in the area breaking up a large crowd that had violated Mayor Greg Fisher's 9 p.m. curfew. Fisher put the curfew in place after the first 2 days of protests in the Breonna Taylor's case. According to court documents, Katie Crews, an officer at the time of the shooting, said that night she had been given an order to assist in dispersing the crowd near the restaurant. She told investigators that Michelle McAtee, David's niece, refused to return to the restaurant after police asked her to do so. The court documents state Crews then started shooting pepper balls at her. Jamie had said, "My niece still has scars to this day that, remind her of that night that are never going to go anywhere." So that's the one great thing, but there's no other steps that have been able to go to also to make it make sense in a way. The sentence doesn't really make much sense. The restaurant surveillance footage shows David standing in the doorway when his niece was struck several times by Cruz's pepper balls. According to investigators, David then stepped outside the door and fired his gun twice. Crews and other officers, as well as 2 members of the National Guard, fired back. McAtee was hit in the chest by one of the guardsman's bullets and was seen backing into the restaurant and collapsing inside, the video shows. FBI's Public Corruption and Civil Rights Police Task Force have been looking into Cruz's case to see if she used the appropriate amount of force when she fired the pepper balls. The U.S. Attorney's Office charged her with the deprivation of rights under color of law. And it's a very specific thing, a deprivation of rights under color of law for allegedly violating Michelle McAtee's civil rights when she fired at her. This is the first criminal charge filed in connection with his death. She was cleared of facing any state charges in Kentucky after Commonwealth Attorney Tom Wine concluded that the Louisville Metro Police Department officers acted appropriately by returning fire, quote, in defense of human life, including their own. David McAtee, he added, posed an immediate threat once he fired his gun. Now, it says Kentucky laws do not include civil rights violations, which is an interesting statement that I don't think is actually accurate in one sense, because it's not like Kentucky allows civil rights violations. So it's not really an accurate statement. But neither Crews nor the Louisville Metro Police Department officers with her turned on their body cameras during the shooting, and we're going to get into that. Because of it, Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher fired then Chief Steve Conrad, and ultimately Erica Shields is going to enter into the picture, who ultimately will fire Crews. Crews was also the subject of a policy investigation by Las Vegas. I keep saying, I see LP, and I keep wanting to say Las Vegas in my head. Louisville Metro PD, after she posted about the protests on social media. The post was about a photograph of a protester and Crews. She was saying, so they don't show the post, but we'll talk about that when it comes to it. And that's the basics of the story that we're talking about there. So that's the news story that broke. And Katie reached out to us at Humanizing the Badge and is like letting us know, hey, I'm getting indicted come Monday. So she has since moved on to other employment, and the FBI contacted her and said, hey, you're being indicted. You need to come down and get processed. She doesn't know what's going to happen after that. And she's agreed to turn herself in, and is going to do that on Monday. I can't imagine what she's going through this weekend with that looming over her head, and knowing as a cop that as a police officer, she received 2 life-saving awards, by the way, not of white people, just so that you guys know, because she's being accused of violating someone's civil rights based on race as part of that. And she has 2 life-saving awards in her career and 26 pages of individual or shift or department citations. Absolutely not one discipline on her record for her entire police career. And that fateful night has now led to her not only being fired when she returned fire after having a gun fired at her, but is now being federally indicted in relation to this case. So, anything to add to that, guys, or questions about that? Because I have a breakdown from officers on the ground that night of kind of like the order of events and what was going on, and I'm happy to get into that. But anything you guys want to add or ask about so far?
This should be concerning to any officer across the country, because you can just go into your normal shift and you don't even have to go be proactive. You get called to something. And because of the current political environment we're in, everything you worked for is up for grabs, and you can be spending years in jail. We have an officer here that's getting ready to go to jail actually for a civil rights violation. So it's for me, it always comes down to the lower level officers getting indicted. But the one thing I don't like is the fact that where is chain of command in this whole thing, and where is the accountability on their end, because they're the ones that sent the officers to this area. Now, of course, they didn't make her fire, but I feel like the leadership, it is up for the leadership to stand up and say, hey, this is what happened. Like I said, I don't know what they have done or have said.
My question is the mayor or the governor, was it the mayor that put the curfew?
Mayor Fisher.
Mayor Fisher, when he put the curfew in, that's her job, is to abide by enforcing that. So how is it she's the one that's violating a civil rights matter when wouldn't that be the mayor that violated somebody's civil rights? Because I feel like the curfew thing comes back to the Jim Crow laws of the 60s, yes. Right? Where we're, putting curfews on young Black African Americans and things like that. So how did she violate the civil?
That's a
how did she violate it?
Great question, but hey, like I said, this is a witch hunt, man, because we just had the other day, Detective Hankinson, he was acquitted and found not guilty of wanton endangerment for the shots he fired into Breonna Taylor's apartment. So I feel like this is a witch hunt personally. Somebody has to pay, somebody has to be held accountable. And so they're trying to get their pound of flesh is what I feel like they're trying to do. Yeah,
it's certainly not administrative people who made the decision to put those officers in that situation that night.
Never is.
That's where it begins here is Katie and other officers were not, that area of the West End is not where they normally work, right? Like not that she's never worked in the West End. I'm just saying like that wasn't her area of responsibility at the time. Okay. But the admin that was responsible for that area said he was spread too thin and he wasn't going to send what guys he did have into that protest. They had received intel that the protests were heating up in that area right around that restaurant, and they were sent in specifically to quell that. You need to disperse these protesters, right? They were sent there for that purpose. It wasn't like, hey, just in case anything gets out of hand, be in the area. This was specifically, we are sending you into a spot. We have intel on is a problem. We have to squash this situation. So they were given pepper ball guns. They were given 40 mics. They're given everything that they need. The turtle gear. We'll talk about that in a second. They had everything that they were supposed to have for going to do this. And they were sent there with that purpose by somebody else. They didn't choose to be there.
Exactly.
They were
Now
sent
let's talk about the mindset really quick, right? So Dexter, let's just put yourself in that shoes, not Monday morning quarterbacking or anything, but what is your mindset when somebody says, hey, we've got a crowd that's forming here and it needs to go away, and your job is to make it go away? What is your mindset at that point?
Well, my mindset would be, because I'm familiar with the area. 26 and Broadway is the spot where you can get the best chicken wings in town and where you can also become a homicide victim. So
The two always seem to go hand in hand.
They
Why,
do. The
why
best
can't we have a
tacos.
world? Heaven is where chicken wings are safe.
it's the stab and go, man. I'm telling you, bro. It really is, bro. It really is. And as a matter of fact, David McAtee, his cousin was killed. His cousin Marvin was killed on that lot a few weeks later.
Wow.
And I was on the homicide scene. I mean, there's people constantly getting shot up at that location. Yo. So going in, you're automatically, and especially if you don't patrol that area and you know the reputation, you're going to be up here. And then just adding the tension from the protest and
By the way,
riot.
because we got more listeners than viewers, when he says up there, what he means is yellow, right? Black means you're at home sleeping. I mean, green.
Yeah.
If you're in the green zone, you're at home sleeping. You're chilling. There's nothing gonna hurt you. You're watching Friends on TV. Yellow is when you are heightened awareness. You hear a knock on the door. There's nobody supposed to be at my house. Now we're in the yellow. Our spider sensors are going off. Red is when you're in like, somebody's jiggling the fucking door handle. They're about to come through the door. I need to go, guns up, giddy up. So right now, what you're talking about is you're already in the yellow in this situation because you know that you're going to Broadway Street.
Yes,
so you're like
going to 26 and Broadway.
Now I'm getting the knock on the door at 1 o'clock in the morning when I shouldn't be. That's the kind of feeling you have, the anxiety, right?
Yep. And then when you get off, and then when you get to that location and you start hearing, hey, yo, fuck 12, you're going up. You're going up to red.
Yeah.
And then all the chaos starts. I said, I wasn't there personally, and I've seen the body camera videos, and that area is always hot and hopping. So, man, anytime I drive through that area, I drive through there still currently and frequently, I'm on guard.
Yeah, you're
that,
in the yellow.
That was exactly what was expressed to me by people on the ground there that night. Was like, listen, they knew there. Not only was that the location that shit is always happening in, but there were active protests and violations of this curfew heating up. Like, if you were getting sent there to break up riots, you were being sent into the belly of the beast, basically. Like, you're going into the shit. We're putting you there on purpose, right? Like, if it's going to be bad, it's going to be bad here, and it's going to be bad tonight. That's the message that was conveyed to the officers. And it wasn't just cops there. We're talking the National Guard was there. Like, the military is involved in trying to keep this from getting worse than it already was, becoming that war zone like you described driving into, Dex. And it's like, it's nuts. And it was described to me that as soon as they get out of their vehicle, they suit up and they get out. And the first thing that they start doing is yelling verbal commands. Like, this wasn't like they didn't show up and stand there and then it progressively got worse. It was already bad when they rolled up. They rolled into an escalated situation. And I mean, shit, I had one MAGA protest that I attended in my career, right? Like, and it ended up being nothing, right? It was just a bunch of people, there was some like theys or thems or whatever screaming into the air with purple hair or something like that. That was all it was. No one was shooting at me. So I don't have the experience. In my head, I'm like, shit, this is like something you would see in the movies. This is some military shit here, not just your normal cop. You take a beat cop and you're like, hey, put on this riot gear and you better get to it. You're slapping them out in the middle of this crazy zone, and they immediately begin yelling verbal commands to disperse. Okay. So that's happening. That is on record. And that's going to come into play when we look at the letter of termination for Katie Crews. One of the things that's on there is that no verbal commands were given. And it's just a blatant lie. It's a non-factual statement that happened. So they start rolling out these orders, and they Katie specifically says that she kind of catches eye contact with this female who happens to be Yaya's daughter, right? And the female refuses to get out of the street and it describes almost like an eye contact situation. Like, yeah, I'm not going to do what you just told me to do. And so, warning pepper balls are fired. This thing into the crowd is happening. It's escalating. And then, she gets hit by these pepper balls. So out comes David and pops off a round. And so the cops recognize that they're being fired at, sort of the guardsmen. They repositioned themselves, and they obviously got to transition from less than lethal to lethal and make that transition. In that process, he comes back out from the restaurant and fires again. And that's when they turn, address the threat, and guardsmen are firing. A couple of Louisville cops are firing, and David is hit in the chest, ultimately succumbs to that injury and dies. So what happens in the immediate wake of that is, as that scene is getting processed, the very admin who sent them in show up on scene. And this I hope will come out with more clear evidence than me just asserting it from information that I've been able to obtain. But hopefully this comes out later, is looking at those officers and guardsmen that had to do their job that night and say, I told you we'd get you into some shit, didn't I? So not only did they pass the buck and not show up themselves to deal with it, not only was that zone's officers not there doing that, and it was people from the outside, but it was almost joked about to them in the immediate wake of having to take someone's life and be in a critical incident. Like, see, told you that it was crazy over here, almost flippant about it. So she ends up off work, which would be, would that be protocol for anybody, Dex, that gets in a shooting? They're going to immediately be taken off, right?
Yeah, I mean, I even did that. I remember I got put on her house watch.
Yeah.
We came back, and I mean, that went on for months.
Yeah. I'm not gonna speak for Katie. I'll let you guys imagine what that would have done to someone mentally, emotionally, to have the death threats that she had after serving her community with distinction and honor, and what that would have put somebody through. And that is, don't confuse that with not being able to have regret. Like you said at the beginning, man, like, this guy never treated you badly. So it's not gloating that he died and she lived. I'm just saying she didn't do anything wrong by returning fire, by dispersing the crowd, by using the tools that the department gives her and the instructions the department gives her for what to do. And then she did it at their exact request, in the exact manner that they equipped her and trained her for and expected of her that night. And then to get death threats and to have cops babysit your house. And then you're indicted.
Then you're indicted for a civil rights violation for doing exactly what they told you to do.
Yes.
And and I'd also like to talk about a 12-year-old girl. Dexter, I think it'd be more appropriate for you to explain, what is a juvenile in the hood? How hard is it to figure out the age of somebody in the inner city? In a high crime area, those people that frequent the high crime areas, how difficult is it to determine their age?
Nah, bro, you can't tell, man. You really don't know. And black folks, we look young, man. We age great.
How dangerous can a 12-year-old girl be?
Oh God, dude. I believe that is why I have been so successful in my career, not getting too hurt, because I expect everybody to try to kill me at some point. I don't care how old you are.
Be polite, be professional.
Be polite, be professional. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. I mean, we have kids here. Dude, all the carjackings we are having in this city, it's all juveniles, man. These kids in this city are out of pocket. And when I came back, I came to discover we got rid of our juvenile jail. So we don't have any place to take these kids. We just give them a citation and we cut them loose to mom and dad. And so there is the perception that kids are harmless. That's bull. man, these kids are dangerous. Like I said,
Just
I don't
saw-
know
saw it in Philly,
McAtee's
right?
daughter.
The 12-year-old that just shot at cops in Philly.
Yeah, and that he's getting fired. Crazy, but I'm excited. I don't know McAtee's, I believe it was his niece. I can't speak on her character, but like I said, that man, anytime I've dealt with youth in that area, I'm not gonna paint them all as, oh, they're all bad black kids. That's not the case, but I've had more than my fair share, man, of young kids that have had multiple bodies on them. Heck, we had a shooting here at a bus stop a couple months ago where these kids were getting ready to go to school. There's a shooting. One kid dies. And as I'm working on the other kid, he tells me, I'm 16, man. It's my second time being shot. In my mind, I'm like, how are you a combat veteran in your neighborhood at age like 15, 16? That's ridiculous. But yet, because I have a black son, has been the same the last few years with Black Lives Matter. I got to be careful that my son's not walking down the street and gets accosted by, these evil racist white cops. But the truth is, you ain't got to worry about me. You got to worry about little Dayron down the street that sees you buying that PS5 and them Jordans, dog. He going to get you way before any other cop is going to get you. And that is the perception that has to change, man. Yeah. Like I said, it breaks my heart, and it's driving me crazy that we continue to perpetuate this victim mentality for young black men, and it just turns my blood boiling, man.
You and me both. So she gets death threats. You even said you're out, and you're correct. It is his niece, not his daughter. Okay. Sure. It is his niece for sure. You yourself were outside of her house on death watch, from the craziness of all this, and she is drugged through this process. Guys, this happened June 1st, 2020, and I'm going to put up this letter. This letter, I think she was just fired in February. Okay, so this is nuts. She's drugged through this for so long. It's insane to me. And then this indictment dropped on just March 16th. So I've got this letter here that I'm showing you guys on the screen. I'll read it to you, and I'm going to break down each thing that's stated in the letter and why there's a problem with this. First thing, you violated standard operating procedure 5.1.3, conduct unbecoming. Now, for those of you that are not cops, I'll just tell you this. Conduct unbecoming is the catch-all policy that basically for every department says, whatever we want to fire you for, we're going to call it conduct unbecoming because you didn't violate anything else specifically enough, and we just don't like you.
A blanket charge.
It's a blanket. I got fired for unbecoming because I opened up a distillery in a different county.
I might be joining you.
Well, so this conduct unbecoming comes from, it says, with the same post as people outside the department saw the post. It's a Facebook post and were offended by it, which adversely affected, lowered, or destroyed public respect and confidence in the department. So here's the deal. There was a photo that was sort of like at least on a local level, sort of like a viral photo of someone giving Crews these flowers. Okay. And it's a white lady doing that. Okay. She was saying and doing. So this photo goes out and it shows Crews with a certain look on her face. She's getting these flowers from somebody. And Katie gets really upset because they're making it seem like these protests are peaceful. They keep calling them peaceful protests, and they were not peaceful. Glass bottles of piss, bricks, rocks, glass. Am I wrong, Dexter?
No.
That's
man,
what was happening to you guys?
My buddy told me that he got his leg caught on fire. Somebody threw a Molotov and caught his entire leg on fire.
What drives me nuts about this picture, and I just have to bring it up, and it's something that drives me nuts with all of this stuff, is anytime something happens in the ghetto, in the inner city, right? All these fucking white woke people show up and they do this woke bullshit and then they go the fuck away. Like they don't ever stay in the inner city and try to help it. Matter of fact, every time they drive through there, they're the ones that fucking call 911. But now
they call me directly.
They've got this white girl, this white woke girl, right? Showing face, doing all the things for the camera, handing a flower but doing nothing to help the cause. Because if this was a just cause and an at cause, we wouldn't need emotions to facilitate change. We wouldn't need to spark emotions across the country. We would be able to literally show up and just say, we're done with it. Just like the truckers, right? The truckers just showed up. There was no burning of buildings. There was no, smashing of windows or, directly, overtly breaking the law, shooting at cops. So this girl goes down there, helps to escalate the situation. And guess where she goes tomorrow? She just fucks right back off to her little university and her little white world and never goes back to the ghetto. Doesn't help the children that are suffering there. Doesn't help the hungry or the people who needs clothes. She just goes back and makes a couple social media posts.
No, because virtue signaling is the new virtue.
That's all it is, dude.
That's
Let me
all
tell
it
you,
is.
I've been down there forever. I've seen so many dead black bodies down at 26 and Broadway, and I ain't seen that one damn protest in defense of any of those young black lives lost down there. Not one, because it's not advantageous, because it's not cool, it's not sexy.
It's insane to me that the broad swath of the population still buys this narrative. It is mind-blowing to me how effective the mainstream media is at tapping into these things and painting a picture of something that is completely not reality. It's absolutely mind-boggling. And I think Katie reached her breaking point here. And this is on Facebook, guys. This is not on the job. This is personal, her personal Facebook. She shares this image and is basically like, listen, she was doing a lot more than it was basically the story was a lie, that it wasn't just some sweet girl giving her flowers. She said, just so for it to be known, anyone that knows me knows that my facial expression tells everything. P.S. I hope the pepper balls that this is the part she messed up on, right? I hope the pepper balls that she got lit up with a little later on hurt. Come back and get you some more, old girl. I'll be on the line again tonight. And hey, I agree. I think Katie would agree. I will not speak. I will not put words in her mouth, but I would bet that she would say, yeah, you know what? It got me. I was mad. I was upset that they were lying about a situation that I was in. They were using me as a tool to live this propaganda, this lie, this narrative that's not true. And that girl wasn't just giving me flowers. She was actually part of the problem.
Now, let me stop everything right there, because that is an amazing point. And how often do we even see in our live chats where we say something that might not be right or not be accurate to the way that other people have read it, and they have to lash out. They have to put a comment in YouTube. They have to send us a private message. They have to write it here in the chats. They have to say something because of the injustice. How do you think that Katie is no different? She saw an injustice with this post, and she feels just the way you do, compounded with the fact she hasn't slept. She's been dealing with heinous riots. The workload at being a cop, the stress level is at it's unprecedented, something she's never seen, hasn't seen it since the academy, hasn't been in stress like that in a very long time. All of that within a post that was unjust in her eyes, and she had to say something. And we all do it. And we all do it. We all make these social media posts. We all do it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I don't even think that having no sleep, having this kind of stress, and making that post, I think it was a good post. I would have said a lot worse shit. I'd been like, come on, old bitch. I'll fuck you up. I'll fucking raise your face with this goddamn paintball gun.
I've literally said I would shoot people crossing the border and not feel guilty.
You know what I mean? So for her to say what she said with that much stress, listen, I'm almost like, well said, honey. Well said.
Yeah. And the thing is, man, people forget, as cops, we are humans. Just like your company, Mike, humanizing the badge, we go through the emotions just like everybody else, man. And you got to think, this stuff has been, at that time, it was going on in nonstop. These officers have been working for almost 2 weeks straight, over 12+ hour days with not a day off, man. Mm-hmm. And you're stressed out. And, PTSD is developing, man. And like I say, I might not agree with how she might have delivered her message, but one thing I always try to tell a lot of young officers, especially in this day and age, and especially me being on social media now, we have to be careful how we, curtail our messages, and just because you can does not mean that you should. But when you are caught up in the instant of the emotion in the moment, man, you're a human, and people are expecting cops to be perfect. And if you want that, you're going to have to start going to Elon Musk and getting some robot cops out here that are pre-programmed, dude.
And by the
because
way, the warrior mindset is a learned mindset, and it's an ever developing mindset. The first time you do jujitsu, what happens, Mike? What's the one thing that everybody does on their first day of jujitsu? Why are they so sore? Because they
freak out and
they
muscle
freak
everything.
out and they muscle everything and they grab onto everything because they don't know how to relax and how to let things go. It's a learned technique. So when you're being a monster, when you're being a warrior, I think David Peterson says it perfectly. He says that you must be a monster. You must learn to be a monster, and then you must learn to control it. And you have a girl like Crews who's probably not that apt at having the warrior mindset. I'm just guessing here. She probably doesn't do a lot of jujitsu. She probably doesn't get in confrontations very often. And so it's not something that's natural to her. So she is coming at this in this high stress situation, and she is having to learn how to be a monster. And what does a UFC fighter do before he fights? He talks some shit, does he not? He's got to pump himself up. He's got to say, I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to wreck you. I'm going to ruin this guy's life. Now, does he mean that? No, but he is trying to convince himself that he is going to be a winner. And what she is doing, what I see in this post, what Katie is doing, is she's convincing herself that tomorrow I'm going to win. Tomorrow I'm going to the front line. I'm going to battle, and I'm going to fucking win. And how does she do that? She has to talk herself into it. And that's learned behavior. And that is her taking all this built up energy, all this angst, all this stuff that's inside of her guts, and she's got to release it somehow. And this is her saying, come on, old girl, come get you some. I'm ready. I'm ready, bitch. Let's go.
And this is the other point, man. Like, say, most officers in their career, you're not going to have to deal with this. I don't know what division she worked out of, but we have a specialized unit here that I'm on, SRT, the Special Response Team. We are trained to deal with this. And a lot of officers, I guess, that were down in that area at that time, were not on that team. And where nobody was mentally or physically prepared for all that, man. So if you work out in the east end of town in Louisville, that's the nice, rich part of town where there's not a lot of problems, and you are transported down there, and that's not the norm for you, you are going to freak out. I mean, it's gonna happen because that's not the norm. Me, man, I go down to 26 and Broadway, somebody starts shooting at me, I'm gonna react, but I'm not gonna be over heightened because I am so desensitized, because that is my normal everyday operating environment. Mm-hmm. And so, and like I said, being on the riot team, I've trained for it over and over and over again. I've taken part in small protests. So I'm going to be more apt and more equipped to handle that. But most of the officers on our department are not trained in that. You get that training in the academy, and then after that, it's pretty much a wrap. So, that stress inoculation, man, it's real. Yeah. It's real. When it hits hard, it's real. When it hits, man, you're going to react.
Was it ideal that she posted that? No, but at the same time, I think we can all relate to that on the human level. And it's her personal life. It's off work, and it wasn't. Maybe you could say, like, yeah, you have to watch yourself on and off duty. I get that. But at the same time, there are a lot of Louisville cops, and all you have to do is go to Google for 10 minutes, and you will find cops that are still on the job today that caused traumatic brain injuries to suspects that they were arresting. I'm not saying that they were wrong when they did it. I'm just saying, like, they're still on the job today, but they're wrapping up a Facebook post that didn't even happen during this situation. It happened a couple days before. Like, they're lumping it together with this as a means to make her a scapegoat for their own political bent. But
somebody's got to pay.
The next one, you violated Standard Operating Procedure 4.31.6, wearable video system, when on May 31st, 2020, you were engaged in law enforcement action and failed to have your wearable video system activated and failed to complete a failure to activate form. Now, interesting to this is a couple things. I want to play a video here that I was able to come into contact with. And this video that you're going to see is a Louisville officer explaining that the turtle gear that she would have had to wear that night is not compatible with the body-worn cameras that they have, which is exactly why it wasn't on and running that night, because it wasn't fitted for that. And this is, I'll just play it for you.
And you guys can hear. Where you want to wear that, whether you want to wear that turtle gear or if you want to wear your tactical vest with the ballistic plates in it. One of the things to consider, though, with the turtle gear is that the WVS camera was never designed to go on that piece of equipment. If you want to wear that turtle gear, you may have to get it out beforehand and see how well your WVS fits on it.
Well, what do you know?
And might I say, that's one of our good leaders right there, man. I've worked for that guy. Freaking love him. I mean, solid leader.
The reason I play that, guys, is because when you talk to the people on the ground and you're like, yeah, well, why didn't she have her body worn camera going? Because the gear it's a shoulder mounted one, and you can't wear the riot gear that you have to do to go into that situation and fumble fuck with your body worn camera and try to figure it out. That should be the least of your concerns when you have riots around you and people are firing a fucking gun at you.
It's like when you're in a foot chase and the guy is more focused on talking on the radio, and then he loses the foot chase and he's like, man, I don't know how I lost that guy. And I'm like, maybe it's because you were on the radio talking the whole time instead of just chasing the guy. It's like you don't play tag in the backyard while talking to all your friends while trying to tag somebody. You'll never tag them. You can't worry about a body camera and effectively de-escalate a riot.
No, it doesn't work like that.
Then basically the concept is okay, if you have a justified reason for not activating your body worn camera, well, then you have to complete a failure to initiate it, like some type of report. And obviously, Dex, you're going to be able to shed more light on that necessary report than I will for your department.
And that's probably the only report she had to do, because she probably didn't use any force. She probably didn't shoot any pepper ball guns. She probably didn't witness any other heinous things. So probably writing the report for why you didn't wear a body camera was probably the most important report she had to write that night.
Two things about that. One is you shouldn't have to write the standard best practice for critical incidents is you don't write your report for 2 days. Like you gotta decompress.
Process.
You gotta process.
But you know what? That's what they say. That's what the science says, Mike. Everybody has been taught that. That's what the science says. But 99.9% of every officer that's in a critical incident, and I was at the hands of this in Raleigh, no, you're not leaving here until you finish your report.
Yeah,
exactly.
But the course you just sent me to said I should wait a couple of days because my brain needs time to
actually process what happened.
And process what happened, that I can articulate it. Because me trying to articulate something, I already suck at spelling. I already suck at articulating what I'm trying to say because my brain goes faster than my mouth, or my mouth goes faster than my brain. One of the two. It's happening right now. So it's already going to be fucked up. So giving it 2 days to calm down, let everything subside, and then articulate what you're trying to articulate is very important.
You know, and so when I returned, man, like a lot of stuff had changed from that time to where she had her incident to where I got back. So when I got back, there was turtle gear, but nobody was wearing the turtle gear anymore. And when I got back, they also started issuing us these little, camera mounts for our cameras so that they could go around the turtle gear. And then they also started issuing us hard plates. So, man, the entire situation started changing once I stepped back into it. And not only that, when we would be getting ready to go into these tense moments, our commanders would all of a sudden speak up and say, hey, everybody, body cameras on now. Put your cameras on. So before we even got close to the event, our cameras were rolling. And like I said, I don't know what the commands were that night going in. And that's one of those things where it's like, as a seasoned officer, I know I've been doing this 12, 13 years. Now, I've had a camera since, I guess, 2012. So personally, I know hey, it might be getting hot, man. Let me go ahead and cut my camera on. But a young, experienced officer under stress, that is not going to be their initial response. She's focused on survival, and me, like I said, for me personally, I've been doing this long enough to where it's just second nature, but I can't expect a young officer to have, my same sort of reaction and my same sort of belief system going into that. And so, man, like I said, I do feel like, command has failed on a lot of levels on this department. And if that was the case that night and she didn't cut her camera on, somebody should have stepped up like, hey, go finish this paperwork now. And I said, I don't know if anybody said anything.
What was the status of her cam? I don't know how many times my body camera has died in the middle of the shift.
I just went through that.
And you're having a riot? Like, oh, hey guys, hey, sorry, Sarge. Sorry, all my friends that are holding the line. I've got to conveniently make my way all the way back to my car, get around all those barricades, drive all the way back to the station to refresh the battery on this body camera. Also, let me do that. Here's a good practice at home for those people who are like, well, it's not that hard to turn on a body camera. Being a body camera is not the only thing that you have to do. Testing your taser, make sure your taser works. Make sure you got the proper bullets. Make sure that your gun belt is where it's at. Make sure that your car key is put in the right spot, right? Because we leave our cars running because there's electronics in there. And when you shut it off, it shuts off all
Kills
the
the car.
electronics and you have to log into everything again. Also, those computers get really hot and they need to stay cool. So we keep our cars running with the air conditioner on so that your laptop doesn't melt down. Now you're trying to figure out, where's my key to my car? Is it in my gun belt? Is it still in my gun belt? Is the hood of my pistol still where the hood of my pistol is supposed to be? Is the snap on my pepper spray still snap shut? Because all these things pop loose all day long, your whole entire shift. And you're checking all these things all the time. Plus radio traffic, super important. We're always on the radio. And by the way, if you don't use the radio correctly, just like these chats in here, everybody's going to let you know. They're going to be sending you messages. Hey, you didn't use your TIN code. You didn't use the right TIN code. So you got all these things running for your brain. Sometimes, and then, not to mention, we've got piss bottles thrown at us, bricks thrown at us, horrible things being said to us. It's very easy to miss one of those steps.
And not even that, bro. We have a policy book over 950 pages. You tell me if you're ever going to be in violation. Yeah. Everybody's going to violate policy. There's just no way.
IRS code and your patrol guide. Holy shit. You guys don't have enough time to do anything but read.
And it's constantly changing and being updated. You get these alerts and you're hey, you need to check your power DMS. We got to update. And you're just constantly reading through and trying to, that's why I just operate off of common sense, man. I do my best to read and follow policy, but there is no way that you're going to just abide by the law, by the line strictly, by policy that's over 900 something pages long, man. That ain't happening. Yeah. Especially when you're, when you only got like 2 brain cells like me, man. I can't do all that. And that's the thing that drives me crazy about police work nowadays is the death by the details, man. There are so many things you have to check, and we're constantly getting new equipment, constantly getting new training. You got to focus on this, that, your shooting, your jujitsu. You got to stay up on your law updates and your policy updates, man. And then when you get into a high stress, situation, especially now knowing that you could be possibly indicted,
everyone expects cops to be human to them, then expects them to perform like robots, and then gets mad when they end up performing like a human. Right. Like, what are you talking about? It's such back-assward thinking, or whatever, bass-ackwards. I don't know how you say that. Anyway, and what if I told you guys that on occasions before, officers have had their supervisors be the ones where they were accustomed to filling out the non-activation reports. And if you had never even filled one out before, why would you fill one out that night? If the past practice was that your immediate supervisor filled it out for the shift.
Yeah, departments are notorious for doing.
Hold on.
Yeah, departments are notorious for doing that too. Like they want to hem you up for something, so they find a policy that everybody violates, and then they get you on it, like driving and using your computer. But also, your policy states that you can't pull a car over until you've run their tags. So what do? You get behind a car that's in violation, then you pull over, stop your car, run their tags, and then drive back after them. And then, by the way, now you've got to break the speed limit to catch back up to them to affect the arrest.
Yeah.
So
how many cops, if they wanted to,
absolutely ridiculous,
could Louisville take these 3 violations or these 4 violations on here, and then say, "Oh, you're all fired." How many, if they looked at everybody's Facebook and said, that the way you said that is conduct unbecoming. Oh, yep. There's an incident before where you didn't turn on your body cam. Oh, yep. Here's one where you didn't say the right thing at the right time, according to us. And here's this one. And so you're fired.
This is a clear case. This is a clear case of them wanting to throw somebody under the bus, to take heat off of the city, to take heat off of the leadership. That's why we've always had a problem with upper management. That's why I've always had a problem with politicians. And I feel that most upper management are just the politicians of your department who have weaseled their way to the top, because the real workhorses, they don't try to make it to the top. They're just more focused on getting the job done. But listen, guys, before we dive back into this, we've got another sponsor.
Hit our sponsor.
Show.
I'm gonna pee. Like Dex has inspired me now. I'm gonna pee because this breakdown has been long. So I'm gonna do that while you do the ghost bed read, and then we're gonna finish this out because we are not done. There's more shit to follow.
It's gonna get good.
Do you need help, Mike?
I'm gonna need your help on this, Dexter. You've got that broke arm thing going on, that whole IED thing. You're not gonna be able to lift that heavy thing that Mike's got down there.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I can only imagine trying.
That's 40 pounds.
That's a good bicep
plus.
curl.
That's a 40-pound pluser there. But no, you can help me out with this ghost read there, Dexter. We love Ghost Bed. They've been a loyal sponsor for the Drinking Bros. You've been on the Drinking Bros main show.
I have.
Talking about your book, I Am Pitts. But Drinking Bros, they've been a loyal sponsor for almost 5 years. Everyone raves about them. Super comfortable mattress that last forever. And Dex, if you'll help me out with this, they're made in the good old USA.
USA.
I thought you had rhythm, homie. I thought people
I got
of
my
melanin
rhythm.
had rhythm.
Well, according to the protesters, I'm not really black, so I'm fitting right in with that whole stereotype, man.
Every mattress has a 20-year warranty. Some even have 25. You can try them out for not 100 nights, not 98, not 99, but 101, baby. If you don't like it, you can easily send it back. No hard feelings, but you won't. One of our favorite parts about Ghost Bed is that each mattress has that cooling technology. Does it get hot in Louisville?
Man, it goes from hot to cold. It was like 70 the other day. Then we had some snow. Now we're getting ready to come into swamp ass season here in the next couple weeks. So,
Are you a
it's getting
hot
ready to warm
sleeper?
up.
Do you sleep hot?
No, bro, I got to be cold, dog. I'm too big, man. I don't.
So that cooling
No,
technology is important to you.
It is, man.
And GhostBed has that cooling technology so that while you're staying hard, like Dexter Pitts, you can also
right.
stay cool. GhostBed also offers bundles so you can get everything you need. You don't even have to really think about it. Just choose from their 4 mattresses and then pick your bundle. Whether you just want a mattress and a frame or you want it all, I want it all. I want it all. And I want it now. Like their cooling pillows and sheets, you can get the best bang for your buck. Right now, GhostBed is offering 40% off GhostBed bundles where you get a mattress and adjustable base, or 30% off of everything if you use the code Drinkin' Bros. That's DRINKIN Bros at ghostbed.com/Drinkin' Bros. You can buy a mattress, $35 a month, 0 down, 0% financing, and that's if you're a professional paintballer or firefighter like Laszlo Lopez. Check it out at ghostbed.com/Drinkin' Bros.
Did I get my black card back with that last song right there, Tansey?
Yeah, that was really great. You did a really good job.
Thank you.
All right,
Proud moment.
back at it. The next
Back to
thing is failing to de-escalate. We mentioned that earlier, but that's nonsense. They already have the National Guard present trying. They sent them in because it was escalating. So trying to shoot pepper balls and giving verbal commands is de-escalation. They're trying to disperse the crowd. That's what they were sent there to do. So following orders and then telling them that you failed to follow orders is ridiculous. So we've talked about that. But the last one here, you violated Standard Operating Procedure 9.1.8. It looks like use of chemical agents when you use pepper balls that they gave her and told her to use to disperse a large crowd. That was neither disorderly nor aggressive. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
That's anecdotally nonsense on its face. If the crowd was not disorderly or aggressive, they would not have been sent in post curfew with the National Guard to try to stop them. So, I mean, the fact that somebody in administration typed that with a fucking serious look on their face is mind-boggling. And then, of course, it's signed by none other than Chief Erica Shields, which when you realize her background, you're like, oh, wow, this maybe makes sense. Some of you go, wow, this kind of sounds familiar. That's because she was also the chief in Atlanta when Officer Garrett Rolfe shot and killed Rayshad Brooks in the Wendy's parking lot when he grabbed their taser and tried to fire it at their faces. And he was shot, and he ultimately succumbed to those injuries after Garrett Rolfe and others tried voraciously to save his life, actually, and did CPR and everything right there in the lot. A video no mainstream media shows. But she fired Garrett Rolfe in less than 24 hours from the shooting and ultimately resigned her position in Atlanta, tuck-tailed and ran because he's being justified now in all of his actions. After also his life was torn apart. Okay.
His mom got fired.
Dude,
Stepmom.
his life was torn apart for political gain of Erica Shields, period. Torn apart, dude, drugged through the mud. He had to go into witness protection. Like he had to be guarded and taken to an unknown location away from his family for months because of this woman and her leadership. Then she tucktails, leaves Atlanta, and finds herself in Louisville, of all places. And she was not chief during this incident, but that doesn't stop her signature from being on the bottom and basically being the one to ultimately say, hey, you've got a problem. And what is this lady like? I'm going to play a clip. We've talked about, I think it was episode number 4, we broke down the Breonna Taylor case. Those officers have also been vindicated, and the whole narrative was a lie. Everything that the mainstream media talked about was a complete lie. And this is the chief of police perpetuating lies from the podium of the Louisville Metro Police Department. Take a listen.
It just doesn't.
Oh, sorry. I need to go back and replay that.
And while you do that, I want to give a shout out to our other sponsor.
Asked and answered in the room.
Oh.
From Amina Elahi from WFPL, she asked Chief Shields, you said it was disrespectful to Breonna Taylor to say it's a similar case to Rayshard Brooks. Could you elaborate on what you mean by that?
I think that Breonna Taylor was at home in her apartment in bed, and the police came into her apartment and she ends up dead. And it's like, that didn't have to happen. And imagine, and this is where it's race reckoning. This doesn't happen to white people.
Oh, man. So I remember when that happened, dude. And I was just like,
wait, what?
What? You know, I mean, when she came here, it did not start off well for her. I'll be honest. And that really put me in a place where it was like, hold up, man. And I'll say in her defense, I don't think she knew everything, because she did come around, walk that comment back around, was like, hey, I wasn't aware of that. I'm sorry. Because like I say, she's coming from outside, coming into this
I didn't know Breonna Taylor was actually dealing drugs.
Sorry,
I'm delivering drugs and holding tons of money.
Yeah, and so she walked that back for our benefit, you know. So, man, it's so weird because a part of me, like, I'm upset because I've reached out to her because I love this department, I love this city, and I wanted to give her a fair shake coming here, and I'm still going to. So I can't sit here and crap on her and say she's a horrible person, but I mean, I sent an email to the chief when she first came here. And it was right after they put out the Hilliard-Hines report that said 75% of officers on the PD would leave if they had the chance. And I responded to that, and I told her, hey, my name's Officer Pitts. I've been here this long. I just returned, and I would love to sit down and have a meeting with you to discuss the future of the department, just to introduce you to myself and just show you what I'm about and that I'm willing to work with you to try to make this place better. Well, lo and behold, I get a response from her. Hey, welcome on board. I'll have my assistant set you up a date. So months go by, I don't hear anything. So I start kind of probing around like, hey, man, like, why haven't I gotten anything back? And I heard the back channels like, bro, your reputation around this police department, black conservative, that ain't happening. Right color, wrong politics. And the person that does all the scheduling is not a fan of me.
Yeah, you don't fit the narrative. So you're not getting promoted ever.
Oh,
Definitely.
Did white victim Duncan Lemp from his no-knock warrant? He's a white kid.
By the way,
when she said that, that's what bothers me more than anything else. You're looking at Duncan Lemp. He's a white guy shot and killed at 4:30 in the morning during a no-knock warrant. And I'm not justifying it one way or the other. I'm just saying that when she says this doesn't happen to white people,
that's a bold lie.
That's fucking dumb. Because I Google searched white man killed in no-knock warrants. Duncan Lemp's not the only one. Go do it yourselves, man. This is apples and apples, and it's plainly obvious information that anyone with fingers and the internet can find the answer to. Of course. When a chief of police says something that irresponsible, it's just like, well, no wonder she's willing to sign her Inca termination letter to an officer that got shot at and returned fire, and you want to fire her over civil rights violation?
Look, she's not. These aren't these aren't good people, right? She's a politician.
She's a politician.
She's
Absolutely.
moving from one agency to the other one. She
the
wants
next.
to be in power, not because she wants to make the world a better place. She wants to be in power because that is the political game for her. Climbing that political ladder is what gets her off. It's what gets her going. She makes stupid, pandering statements like that just for clout. Probably inside when she's having dinner with all of her other white friends at Thanksgiving, she's probably retracting all those things like, fucking listen what I just said. When she's probably saying the exact opposite in front of all her white friends around her ginormous dinner table. Anyway, I
see.
she annoys the shit out of me just looking at her.
I know I've been around long enough. So I know I've been around long enough to know that she's not going to be here long at all. This is like I said, this is a stop for her going on to something else.
She'll get promoted because the two other administrative officers that were involved in the situation to some level that night, both sending them there and saying some of the things that I shared were said on the ground, have both since been promoted since this incident, while Katie Crews is fired.
Yeah, and I'd love for the chief to just come out and just say, "Oh, by the way, it's really important for everybody to know that Breonna Taylor wasn't a no-knock warrant. That everybody,
state the facts,
including the victims, quote stated that the officers knocked at least 4 times."
Any other Louisville cops that listen to this show, pass along the word, send an email up the chain. I'm going to email Erica Shields directly today, and I'm going to invite her to come on here and defend her absolute ridiculous stupidity, and that's what I will call it in the email.
Are you going to get me in? Are you going to get me in for the meeting I put in for like almost a year ago?
Yeah, I'll try.
And P.S. Give Dexter Pitts his
Hear my mood out.
Sure.
Pitts is still waiting on his meeting. So,
but I will say this: like I say, I try my best to be reasonable. Like I say, I don't like politics. I hate identity politics. I don't pander to me. Look at me at face value, and that's it, man. But so I will say she has made a bunch of statements. I was like, I just like, wow, I can't believe you said that, because she's got to play politics. But
she's saying it because it's for clout. It's, hey, look at me, I'm pandering.
Politics, man.
Yeah, it's for votes. So.
And so for me, it's she has done some good. So we had an incident here about last year. We have an abortion clinic downtown where I work, and there's always anti-abortion people out there protesting. So we had an officer that was off duty, drove by in his police car, and he was in uniform, but he put a jacket over himself and was holding a sign, and he was protesting against abortion.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Hey, so he was off duty
with his patrol car.
Yes, in his patrol car. So
in his uniform.
In his uniform, but he put a jacket on, so you couldn't see the LMPD patches.
Shit.
Yeah, I know, but you couldn't see
Change
the LMPD
out of your
patches.
fucking uniform and go get your own personal car and do.
Well, and this
like
and this is why I gave her props, because so somebody sees the officer, they complain, the officer gets suspended, put on admin leave. So she decides that, you know what, this officer is not going to be punished, even though he was already put on light duty. He's not going to be punished because there were officers on the PD that were marching in uniform with Black Lives Matter. Okay. And she said that wouldn't be fair. So I was like, you know what? Hey, so I got to give her props for that. That's solid. Absolutely
that
solid.
is
I respect that. I was like, hey, that's cool. And then the other thing she's been doing
that's because the city attorney was like, this motherfucker's going to sue the shit out of
he sued and he just won. So if you out there, bro, listening, hey man, I need a couple dollars, man. I got to take my kids out after this,
Hey, if you need a couple of dollars, we've got James Milanese who's dropped us like $70 today.
Sure. Thanks so much. Big money.
Dude, thank you so much. Go ahead and subscribe to my OnlyFans. It's called Only Body Cams. And I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh. Well, Tansey, did you look up what that under color of law indictment thing, like what that was described as?
Yeah, color of law, essentially, it's where you are doing something. I'll just read it. Section 242 of Title 18 makes it a crime for a person acting under color of any law to willfully deprive a person of a right or privilege protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States. For the purpose of Section 242, acts under color of law include acts not only done by federal, state, or local officials within their lawful authority, but also acts done beyond the bounds of that official's lawful authority. If the acts are done while the official is purporting to or pretending to act in the performance of his or her official duty. Essentially, what it's saying here is that I don't get to break the law or violate your rights under the color of law. Like, I can't say, get out of the car, I'm searching your car. And you say, why? And I'm like, because I'm a law enforcement officer and I said so, get out of the car and let me search it. That would be violating somebody's rights under the color of the law. But in this case, Katie Crews was told by the mayor that there was a curfew that she was to enforce. She was told by her supervisors to go down to Broadway Street and stop an angry, riotous mob. She was told by her direct supervisors to shoot pepper balls into said crowd. So at what point do those folks that gave her those orders, are they held responsible?
Yeah. And that's always been my thing. Like, man, I had an incident here where there were kids getting molested by officers in the Explorer program. So we have 2 low-level officers that are actually in jail serving time on that, but nobody from chain of command this program was shut down and then reopened again, but like I say, it's always the low-level guys. Of course, they were the ones that were involved in it, but of course there are other people involved in this stuff at higher levels that knew, because the complaints went out and it was known, but for some odd reason, nobody else with rank on their shoulders has been brought in on it, man. And that's the thing that drives me crazy. Everybody, when I don't know what it is when people promote, but they forget where they come from. And
it becomes, I'll tell you exactly what it is. It becomes about getting the next rank. So I always say that once you, and generally speaking, once you get to that rank of captain, that's in a police department. That's when you decide, okay, do I want to be a man of the people, a man of my officers, a man of the community, and actually do the right thing and be a captain forever? Or do I want to play the political game, go to the fancy dinners, choose to get schmoozed, choose to get sucked into becoming the major, then the deputy chief? Because at that point, you're playing politics to move up.
It's all politics,
and
man.
you're no longer thinking about, you're not giving 2 fucks about anybody else. All you're thinking about is, what do these people with all this money want me to do? And what balls do I need to scratch or rub in order to keep getting promoted? So when you see somebody that's a major or above, I automatically assume they have to prove themselves as a good person to me, because I'm automatically just going to assume that you're a piece of shit. You might have been a decent human being, but you sold your soul at captain to get to where you're going.
And so I'll tell people, my upper leadership on one of my podcasts, I told them, I was like, yo, if anything happens to me while Chief Shields is here and all these other people.
You did not suicide yourself.
I did not suicide myself.
Suicide.
I did not shoot myself in the back of the head 3 times and stab myself. But I told him, I was like, yo, if anything happens to me while I'm working and this current chain of command is in place with her, I was like, I don't want them being at my bedside. I don't want you in contact with my family, because when my partner died in December, one of our partners, he got hit and killed up on the interstate, Officer Zach Cottingan, and then they went to the funeral and, oh, he was a great guy. And I was like, you don't know him.
You don't even know him, bitch.
We know him.
Yep.
But of course they have to show face. Like, a good leader would be like, I didn't work directly with him. We're the chief of police, but you know who did work with him? Officer Dexter Pitts. Officer Dexter Pitts, please come up here and say a word. And that would be, but they can't, because that's their moment to shine, baby.
Then you got to have the Obama moment with the Dallas 5 that you referenced earlier, where he fills the stadium, and the very people who were there couldn't get tickets to get inside because he had to have his panel behind him, and the Dallas cops couldn't get in to celebrate the life of the 5 that were lost because a politician needed their spotlight.
Pandering, man. And it is just seeing what the department is now compared to what it used to be. Like, I will go to bat for my current chain of command where I work at, Major Lauder, my lieutenants and my sergeants, man. At the ground level, I'm solid, man. But outside of that, I have no trust and no belief that if I go out here and make a mistake, that somebody's going to go to bat for me, because I see what has been happening to officers on this department, man. And it's scary. And, what we have, guys, is this gap. We have this gap where we have people like me and my partners and the guys I work with that have gone through the riots. And then now we have the new guys coming out that didn't go through the riots. They didn't get the experience, the death threats, and what it's like to drive home on the interstate at 90 miles per hour with your lights off, trying to see if somebody's following you. and the stress of wondering if somebody's going to come try to find you and your family. The new guys didn't go through that, so they're out here stopping cars and doing all, being super proactive. And I'm not going to be the one to tell the new guys, dude, don't go out here, don't be the police, don't be proactive. But what I tell them is, look, I'm here as your partner to make sure you don't get killed and do my best to make sure you don't get indicted. But you have to realize that policing today is not the policing it was when I started. Nope. This is a different game now. And you become a political prisoner real quick. If you got white skin and you get into it with somebody with the wrong color, you are done and your goose is cooked. And we have seen this time and time again over the last few years.
I had a young officer come at me and was talking to me about all these things that he's doing. He's actually a really close friend of mine that I'm proud of him for becoming a cop. And he's telling me all these things that he's doing proactively. And I'm like, yo, you got to come down. He's like, no, man, you just show up and do your job every day. And I'm like, you say that, homie. You say that. And I know you. And I know all of the good intentions that you have. But you keep acting that way and you keep being a hero and keep doing a really good job. You're going to fucking do a good job with the wrong person, even if you were justified in it or not. And they're going to fucking burn you alive. And he's like, well, that's just what it is. I said, okay, you say that now.
You say that, dude.
But you have a wife and you have kids. What's more important, homeboy? Protecting your wife and your kid, or being a hero for those who don't even give a fuck about you anyway? And being a company man, and it's hard for me because I want him to stay motivated and I want him to hunt the evil and I want him to do these things. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, you gotta tone it down because you've got to weigh that risk. Is it really fucking worth it? And if you really think about it, it is not worth it.
No, and right now it's not. Dude.
McAdder, what's his name? McAdee?
McAtee.
McAtee in his brain, I would say the same thing to him if he was still alive. I'd say, look, homeboy, if somebody shot my kid unjustly with a pepper ball gun, would I want to fucking shoot him? Would I want to take some pop shots at him? Yeah, I would. But do you think that it's worth it? Is it worth getting your 2 rounds off and getting killed and no longer being able to protect everybody around you because you were unwise and you went into a battle that you could not win, whereas you could have had a battle of the mind and not a battle of the will, and thought, okay, how could I accomplish the same thing but win in the end? And then he could have civilly sued, went through the civil suits. He could have, went up the chain of command. He could have seen how important was it to him? Because I guarantee you, if you were to talk to him now, he would say, fuck, dude, if I had say it all over again, I would not have taken a bullet in the chest for this.
No, I would still be alive, The young officers do not have that foresight, and they've not seen the things that those of us have been around for a while have seen, man. So I do my best. I don't tell young officers not to be the police, but do what your career can afford. At this point in time, you have to realize the risk you are taking in that uniform. And plus, where I work at downtown in Louisville, like I said, we are dealing with the protesters again. I don't need to be proactive because guess what? Where we work in the call for service volume, the trouble is going to find you regardless. So I don't have the need to go out and find additional trouble. Now, if I'm driving around and somebody does something in front of me egregious,
go find you a bunch of white people. Go find you some white people to fuck with. You can fuck with them all day long. Nobody gives a shit. Bro, hey. Go to the communities that don't have any crime and pull them all over anyway. Who gives a shit?
Pull over little Tanner and little
Yeah, get them. Fuck them, dude.
Where do you think you're going, Chad?
Yeah. Not today.
You got squash practice or something?
He's like, you just caught me for rolling a stop sign that literally nobody stops at. When there's a stop sign like way down there's been like 6 accidents. They're like, hey, down there's a lot more people of color, and I don't want to risk pulling over somebody of color. You're white and you ran a stop sign. You're fucked.
You're white. You're safe.
Oh my gosh. So we'll stay, guys. That's the breakdown basically of another cop being railroaded for the sake of politics. And I believe, and call me a conspiracy theorist all you want, I believe that there is a play being ran on law enforcement. It's a political play. To me, I feel like I'm reading the field ahead of time, and that's why I'm not in law enforcement right now. And that play is that they are going to politicize this in such a way, get rid of people who disagree with that narrative. And what that's going to do is that is going to leave people that are willing to compromise their morals, that their ethics. The police departments will not be filled with people with character. They will be filled with people who will say yes and do the bidding of the politicians, no matter what it costs them and no matter what it costs the community. And that's what you're going to be left with. And they're going to destroy policing from the inside out. and so that they can set up more national standards and federal oversight over police officers. They want more control, more influence, and they want to shred diversity and uniqueness in our communities and the true safety of our communities in the name of politics and power. And it's disgusting, and I'll call it out to the fucking day I die. And that's what's really going on here, in my opinion.
You know, and it's sickening, dude. And just seeing how the career, has constantly changed, man, it's scary. And, I do this because I still believe, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But, there's other things I could be doing, but I believe in this job, and somebody has to be here to protect the people. And I know that I am taking a risk coming on the show. And I feel like I'm in a unique category right now where I am the only active officer in the country that has written a book that references what it was like to go through the riots. So, I see a lot of people, a lot of guys that are speaking out on stuff, but we need more officers that are active, still in uniform in the game, to start speaking out, because there's no reason that we can go out here, put our lives on the line to make sure everybody else's rights are, intact, but we can't use those rights ourselves. And the thing is, so what is the purpose of us having these rights in this country if we feel like we can't use them ourselves? We have to really think about that, man. Like, there's no reason that you as an officer can't speak up and speak your mind. Exactly. And just because you have a certain title or certain rank on your collar does not mean that I cannot criticize you or say that I agree or disagree with you. You are not special, and you are not out of reach or out of touch of my personal opinions. You might not like it, but a good leader would listen and welcome those opinions. And we're just at this place where our leaders are becoming untouchable. And it's just everything.
But that's everybody. Like that is the culture. Hollywood, right? All these elites. It's just the elites, right? Elite America has separated themselves from any other class. Like, they've formed their own class of elites, and they can get away with anything. I mean, look at Hunter Biden getting away with whatever he wants. Juicy Smollett. You think they would let you think if I went to jail for creating a hate crime or some crazy shit, you think they would let my dumb ass out of jail early? Fuck no, they wouldn't.
Case in point, we just had an incident here where our guy that's in the city running for mayor, Craig Greenberg. I don't know if y'all heard about it, but a guy from Black Lives, that was a Black Lives Matter, big anti-gun guy, Quintez Brown, goes into Craig Greenberg's office, fires 5 rounds, and magically misses him. So he gets arrested, gets put in jail. Black Lives Matter comes and bails this guy out in less than 48 hours, yo. And I'm just like, I'm looking. So I am not a conspiracy theorist, ladies and gentlemen, and I have no proof. But something about that stinks to high heaven to me, man. I've said on my podcast, it doesn't smell right. Like, there's just no way 5 to 10 feet point blank. Oh, I missed. And now he's in a mental institution seeking help.
Yeah. What's the name of your podcast?
It's the I Am Pitts podcast.
And where can we
soon to be I Am Unemployed Punk podcast?
You're like the Braveheart. You're like the black version of Braveheart, where you're going to get strung up by this department after this podcast, and we're all just going to be going, "Mercy, Dexter."
You know what?
Try mercy, Dexter.
And you're going to be like,
Black Jesus, Dexter. But you know what? It's so weird, man.
Since now that you're unemployed, how do we follow you? Do we follow you on Instagram or FaceTubes?
FaceTubes. So I got I Am Pitts on Instagram. I also have a website, I Am Pitts at IamPitts.com, where you can go and purchase a copy of my book. And I'm also on Facebook at I Am Pitts, Memoirs of an American Patriot. And there's also the author Dexter Pitts page on Facebook as well. So you can follow me on any of those, man. I say I'm new to this whole space of social media, really, and just, I'm still figuring my way out. Like I said, I do my podcast, the I Am Pitts podcast. You can get that on most major places where you listen to your podcast, man. Say, I don't hold back, dude. I'm just like, no, I almost died for this country and almost lost an arm. Nobody's going to sit here and tell me that, you know what, you had better be quiet and you better shut your mouth because you work for me. Yeah. I wish somebody would. I'm still surprised that nobody from the police department has said anything about my book or about my podcast. But it was
your
so
book is
funny.
Phenomenal, by the way. Your book was it was absolutely wonderful. I actually gave it to a girl on the airplane. I said, she's like, "What are you reading?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a book about racism and about the police and their involvement in racism, and it's written by by a black cop. And she was like, oh, that sounds great. And then I was like, yeah. And then she started talking to me about like just how bad cops are and everything. And I just was like, yeah. And I was like, you should read the book. Because I felt like if I told her like I was pro police and that the book is pro police, she wouldn't read it. I was like, yeah. And I was like, I tell you what, like I'm pretty much done with this book. I'm like halfway through it, and I'm going to listen to the rest on audio, which I don't think they exist. But
I'm working on it.
But I wanted her to take the book, and she was like, yeah, because she had to fly on to Buffalo, and we were getting off the plane in Charlotte. So hopefully she at least made it, because even if she makes it through the first chapter, I mean, shit, dude, that's enough. That first chapter was enough for me to be like, fuck, dude, it must suck to be Pitts in those riots and stuff.
It has
But
at
hey, James
times.
Milanese, he says they would have railroaded her even if she wasn't going into that area. Oh, you could have kept that guy from being shot if you were there. Politicians, pieces of shit politicians, they are just using her as a scapegoat.
Yep.
Yes, James, we totally agree with you.
Thank you, James, for the support. Well, guys, our time is up for today. We've gone 2 hours, man. We cruised through. Dexter's kids are in the other room starving.
My micro Negroes, dog. I'm getting ready to take them out for some fun, dog. You can laugh, Tansey. It's okay.
Stop laughing, dude. Listen, I'm a piece of shit. If anybody has any expectations of me, that's their fault. I'm a self-proclaimed POS.
I tell people I'm a Christian, but I'm also a grunt at heart, dude. The Army grunt, the cop, and
I think I just wrote about this yesterday on my own blog. Like, hey, man, I think following Jesus is a good thing, but I do say fuck all the time, man. Like, I don't think he cares. I've always raised my kids to say there's no such thing as bad words. There's bad ways to use words.
Yeah.
So that's
if I'm not getting into heaven, it's going to be because of all the dick jokes I've told over the last 37 years, dude.
Yeah,
some of which we told today.
You just get to heaven and you just starts like listing out your dick jokes, and you're like, we get it.
He pulls out one scroll.
I get it, Lord. I get it.
No, that's just the dick jokes.
Yeah, he's like everybody's waiting in line. You're just like looking back at everybody. You're like,
we got a whole box of the rest of the stuff.
That was funny though, right? That was a funny dick joke. They're like, no, that's. No. Are you gay, Dexter? Are you gay? Because that's a lot of sucking dick references that you've made.
All right, boys and girls.
Only on St. Patty's Day, right?
Better to Stop podcast. Tune in. We'll be back Monday. You can tune in live 8 p.m. on Tuesday night, of course. That's night shift. We'll be live Tuesday night. And stay tuned on social medias for all what we got coming up. And Dexter, we appreciate you so much. And we're going to have you back to tell more in detail of your more personal story and adventures of life and what we can all learn from you. So hopefully you'll come back. And
appreciate y'all for having me on. And want to say congratulations to Rachel Levine, the USA Today's Woman of the Year.
Oh, yeah. Lord. Rachel, dude, proving that even men can be women better.
Man.
When the patriarchy can win Women's Month, it's a good time for men.
Them for the win again, dog.
Oh gosh.
Oh my gosh, James Milanese.
James, I'm not saying that. Oh, Dino Nuggets for the win. Okay. All right. We'll see you guys until next time.
See you at the unemployment line, ladies and gentlemen.
Can't stop, won't stop.